Hi everybody, I'm Graham and welcome to Thoughts from Crystal Street. You might notice a few things. One, Tannen isn't here, and the angle is a little weird, and this camera might pop in and out of focus as I do this video. The video that we recorded for the original episode this week didn't come out, and I only realized that right before I went to go edit it. So, unfortunately, Tannen is out of town. But I wanted to make sure that I got an episode in for you guys because I appreciate you coming each week and watching Thoughts from Crystal Street. So this week, me and Tannen talked about the Supergirl costume. We both thought it looked good. It had some interesting variations with the S looking a lot like the Brandon Routh S, whereas the rest of the costume kind of looked like Cavill's. So we thought that was kind of an interesting mix. We also talked a little bit about the CW team-up show that's coming out and potential cast members. The biggest one there was we both thought it was really cool. There's a high potential that Static Shock might be on the show. So I doubt we'll refilm and talk about those same topics as we generally do these things. We do it improv and we don't really want to talk about the same subject again. So unfortunately, those will just be lost in the ether. So while Tannen is gone, I thought that maybe I'd talk about what I do at Crystal Street Comics. Namely, I write them. Tannen does all the pretty pictures, and I put the funny words that go above their heads. It was funny getting started with it because again, we used to work in theaters, so there was a lot of, oh, this would be funny, because I was seeing a lot of movies and things like that. So early on, it came easy, but eventually, again, as long as we've been doing it, you run into situations where it's like, oh wait, I've already kind of done a joke like that. I can't do that joke again, or do I make this joke into a running franchise? And so it's been an interesting development as a writer, just trying to make sure that I'm always funny fresh, I guess is the fresh and funny, funny and fresh, whatever the words are that I want to use there. You know, for the most part, we don't do a lot of continuity things on Crystal Street. I mean, there'll be particular strips where me or Tannen is maimed or whatnot beyond what would be recoverable, and then in the next issue, we're fine. So I've never been big on continuity, but there are some things that have stuck around through the years. Like early on, we did the seppuku joke with Tannen, and we decided, and that kind of became one of Tannen's things, is that he would just misinterpret words or not quite know what a word is, and that's not Tannen at all. Tannen is an exceptionally bright individual, but it just for some reason became really funny for that to be a character shtick. So that's come around a couple times. We've done the rustling thing in a few of them. Generally, if you see the rustling comics, I literally had no ideas, so it was let's pass the belt around. Um, but movies I have always been my biggest draw. If there's a movie that maybe tanks, how can I make fun of that? If there's a weird casting choice, how can I make fun of that? So that's always kind of like when I sit down to write a strip, and I'm generally getting the strips to Tannen the day before the strips come out. So Tannen tends to work a night job, so I try and get him the strip by, say, 9 or 10 the night before, and by the time I get home from work, he'll have drawn out the strip, and I can get it published. And movies are where I start. So was there a big movie release? Was there a bit of big movie news? And if that draws a blank, then I might fall to my secondary, which is video games, and maybe during the NFL season, I do some sports strips as well. If all of those run dry, then you'll see what I generally refer to as random comics. Last week's Jimmy Crack Corn comic strip is an example of that, where I didn't have anything else, so I was just kind of sitting around thinking what's funny. And a conversation me and Tannen had for years that we'll get into is, if Jimmy cracks corn and nobody cares, why does he do it? And this can turn into a 20 or 30-minute conversation between me and him. So it's always something that's made us laugh, and I finally just said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do a strip about it and see how many people get a laugh out of it. So that's generally my writing process if I'm going through the steps of what a strip can potentially be. It's a lot of fun. Some nights it's a lot of work. There are nights where I do sit and bash my head against the table for sometimes hours. I get stuck, and it's great when you can break those walls. That's always nice. But I like it when it just flows naturally. Like I can either sit down and it comes to me, or even it comes to me in the middle of the week before the strip is even close to being done. It's like, oh, I'm going to do that for the strip. That always makes things a little bit easier. And I think the comics that I do like that tend to come out a little bit better because they're not as forced. I can read a lot of the strips and I'll know, oh, I wrote that one. That one was a forced strip, or that one I had nothing in the tank at that point. So yeah, it's a little short. I know our videos tend to go a little bit longer than this, but it is just me talking at you, and I don't want to ramble too much. So we'll be back next week. Tannen will be back, and we'll have some different discussions for you. And so I'm Graham from Crystal Street, and this was Thoughts from Crystal Street, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.